Howdy, howdy. My name is John, and recently I went on a little bit of a trip. And this video is just kind of for me to show some pictures from that trip. My first set of pictures are from Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham is where a lot of the activism for civil rights took place, and they have a Civil Rights Institute museum there. Now, I didn't go inside the museum itself, partly because outside, as you see in this first picture, they have markers to mark the marches that took place during this period. And so here's the first of one of those trails. And there's about 5 trails that you can follow. I only followed a couple of them. This is a picture of the 16th Street Baptist Church, where much of the organizing for these took place. And it's actually across the street from the Civil Rights Institute itself. There's a park on the other side of the Institute, and so they've got some markers there as well. And then these are the books that I bought in the gift store of the Civil Rights Institute. The titles are Beloved by Toni Morrison, The Autobiography of Malcolm X as told by Alex Haley, The Tuskegee Airmen by Lynn M. Homan and Thomas Riley, Selma by Sharon J. Jackson, and Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave by Frederick Douglass. The next set of pictures are from the USS Kid in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This is a Fletcher-class destroyer that served during World War II and then for some years afterward as well. This was of interest to me because my dad served on several Fletcher-class destroyers. In 1954, he actually went to the Mediterranean on at least 3 different destroyers. I visited this just to kind of get a feel of what my dad experienced. These are the crew quarters, and you can tell they packed them in fairly tightly.
Let's get back to the unfortunate twin brother Martha. Martin fell in love too. The troops, the colonies, all girl officers. One at a time, of course. First when I was Gladys in her magic saxophone. Then when I was Mabel in her magic cornet. And then Eugene in her magic trombone.
These are the officers' quarters, so, better conditions, but still very cramped. This is a sign that describes what life was like aboard the Kid. There were 330 men aboard this. This is the bathroom aboard the Kid. And that seat in the red, that seat that is red, that was reserved for the sailors that had, a little bit too much fun on shore leave. At the ship, there's also a museum, and the museum has a lot of models of different ships that served in the USS Navy. This particular ship is a troop carrier, and my dad also served aboard a troop carrier while he was in the service. It's a different class than the one shown, but it does give you a general idea. These are the books that I bought at the USS Kid. One of them is a book of data about the USS Kid, and then the other is a coloring book with various World War II warships. This picture is at the Texas Welcome Center on I-10 as you cross from Louisiana. Well, it is an election year. This picture is me at the welcome sign to Roswell, New Mexico. The following morning, I went to the International UFO Museum in Roswell, and Roswell is a city that definitely plays up the alien theme. Here's some of the artwork at the UFO Museum. The UFO Museum is where I got my little alien stuffed animal and my UFO lava lamp. This next picture is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Route 66 passes through the city. And so I got off the interstate a little bit early just so that I could drive through Route 66 through town. I stopped at the National Museum of Nuclear Science and History. Inside, they've got a lot of the technology and some other items that pertain to nuclear science. Outside, they've got some actual aircraft and missiles and some other vehicles that were used during this time. This is a book just after I had crossed into Arizona at a Native American store. And the book is It Had to Be Done, The Navajo Code Talkers Remember World War II. One of the nice things about traveling at the time of year that I did was seeing all the flowers in bloom. I didn't get pictures of everything I saw, but this was outside my hotel room in Phoenix, Arizona. The next series of pictures are at a rest stop between Phoenix and Las Vegas. This is a picture at an overlook somewhere between Phoenix and Las Vegas. On the way to Las Vegas is the Hoover Dam. Traffic used to actually be routed over the dam itself, but recently they built a bridge. This is a view of the Hoover Dam from the bridge. They've got a marker on the bridge where the Arizona-Nevada state line is. This is a picture of the dam up close to it. These are the electric generators inside the dam on the Nevada side. This is a picture of the bridge from the dam. I spent a couple of nights in Las Vegas, and this is the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign. Had to get a selfie of myself with the sign. I'm not going to share any more pictures of Las Vegas because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. This is a map of California that was at the Welcome Center. This picture is at the California Welcome Center on the drive from Las Vegas to LA. This is what I paid for gas when I got into California. This was the highest that I paid for it while I was on my trip. This is a picture of the Pacific Ocean at Doheny State Beach in Dana Point, California. Dana Point is the start of California 1, and I would spend 3 days driving north on California 1. This was the first time I'd ever seen the Pacific Ocean. California 1 drives right past LAX Airport. This is a stop between Los Angeles and San Francisco. Also between LA and San Fran is a place for elephant seals to congregate. So here's a little bit of video from that. This, of course, is the Golden Gate Bridge. This is on the San Francisco side. Here's a sign with actual cable and some stats about the bridge. This is a picture after I had driven across the bridge, and so this is on the north side. And of course, a selfie with me in the Golden Gate Bridge. This is the end of California 1. After I left California 1, I drove US 101 north. This takes you through the Redwood National and State Parks. I didn't get to spend a lot of time here, but I did stop at the Visitor Center. This is a view from the Visitor Center. This is a book I bought at the Visitor Center for the Redwood Parks gift shop. It is California Indians and Their Environment, an introduction by Ken G. Lightfoot and Otis Parrish. This is a picture of the World War II monument in Salem, Oregon. This is a picture at a rest stop in Washington State. These next two pictures are at the Wild Horse Scenic Overlook in Washington State. These are actually some sculptures of horses that are up on the ridgetop. And as you can see, there's a path that you can go up to look at them closer. I didn't actually walk up the path. This picture was taken on May 5th at a rest stop in Montana. This is the Granite Mountain Memorial. This is in Butte, Montana. You get a nice overlook from the city at the memorial itself. This picture is at one of the welcome centers when you get into Wyoming. And really the whole purpose of this trip was for me to spend some time in Wyoming. And so I spent a little over a week there, and there'll be a lot of pictures coming up of Wyoming. Next are a series of pictures from Yellowstone National Park. This is just a picture of the mountain ranges at a stop in the park itself. This is a sign inside the park marking the 45th parallel of latitude, which is halfway between the equator and the North Pole. This is a map of Yellowstone and then a landscape map showing the mountain ridges. This is the new Blue Spring, and this is part of hot springs near the Mammoth Hot Springs. This is a traffic jam that was caused by a herd of bison. Here's a close-up showing the bison in question. And of course, no trip to Yellowstone is complete without a trip to Old Faithful. There were some bison outside the waiting area for Old Faithful. Next is a video of Old Faithful itself that I took. And as you can hear, it was very windy that day. And then these are a couple of books that I bought at the Welcome Center. One is Yellowstone National Park by Lee H. Whittlesey and Elizabeth A. Wary. The other is Yellowstone, A Photographic Journey, photograph and text by Stephen C. Hinch. The next day, I went to Grand Teton National Park. This picture is inside the park itself, and this is Lake Jackson. Here's another view at Lake Jackson. This is a view from one of the turnouts inside of the park. This picture is at Jenny Lake. This is a model of the Grand Tetons that's at one of the Welcome Centers. These are the books that I bought at the Grand Teton Park gift store. The first one is Jackson Hole Historic Photographs. The next is the Journals of Lewis and Clark, edited by Bernard DeVoto. The last is The Earth Shall Weep, A History of Native America by James Wilson. This is a picture inside of Wyoming, and I took it mainly to get a feel of the elevation. Kemmerer, Wyoming is at an elevation of 6,927 feet. At the Green River, Wyoming Chamber, they have some mining machinery that is outside. You can actually see one in the background in this picture. This is a statue of some miners, and you can also see additional equipment in the background as well. This was a special interest for me because early in my career, I designed electric motors for Joy Mining. This is a close-up of a nameplate. This is one of the motors that are on one of the machines. And then this is a picture of the river and the mountains at the visitor center. This is a picture at the University of Wyoming. You can see their football stadium to the left, War Memorial Stadium. This is a map of the Wyoming Territorial Prison. This is in Laramie, Wyoming. Prison itself, the prison is on the right, and you can see the wooden wall around the prison. Inside the wall and behind the prison is a broom factory where the prisoners were employed during the day. This is a picture of the back of the prison from inside the yard. This is one of the benches made by the prisoners. This is a book I bought at the prison, Wyoming's Outlaw Trail by Mac Bluer. Also in Laramie is the Laramie Railroad Depot Museum. Outside is this locomotive and other railcar trains. This is inside the museum. The museum is right next door to the railroad depot, which now they use as a convention hall. This is a book I purchased at the Laramie Railroad Depot, and it's the Laramie Railroads by Lawrence Ostrich and Jerry Hansen. This is the Ames National Monument. It was built for two brothers who were influential on building the railroad from Laramie to Cheyenne. It was very windy that day. I was walking into the wind to get from one side of the monument to the other and really struggled against it. This is a statue of Mary at a park in the southeast corner of Wyoming. This is a picture of the Cheyenne Depot Plaza. It's right at the Cheyenne Depot, and it's a large open space for gatherings. This is the exterior of the Cheyenne Depot, which is now a museum. This is inside the depot. On the second floor of the museum, they have an entire model that one man built inside of a single wide trailer. This is a series of pictures of them removing the model from the trailer and putting it into the museum. Here's another picture that shows how big this model actually is. These are two books that I bought at the Cheyenne Depot. Wyoming's Historic Ranges by Nancy Weedle, Wyoming Department of State Parks and Cultural Resources. And then I bought a DVD talking about the model railroad that I showed you pictures of. In Cheyenne, they have large cowboy boots that are painted different, and they're all over the city. This is one of the steam engines in a park in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and it's one of the largest ever built. Here's a sign about that particular steam engine. Also in Cheyenne is the Messenger Brothers Museum, and they have a lot of artifacts from the kind of coach and wagon period. Another trip I made in Cheyenne was to the city of Cheyenne Botanic Gardens. This is another steam engine in a different park in Cheyenne. This one's actually near the Botanic Gardens. Here is a bench near that engine that shows several different of the engines that were used. Another museum I went to was the Cheyenne Frontier Days Old West Museum. Again, you can see another one of the boots. And of course, of special interest to us booktubers is the bookmobile from the county library. This is a book I bought at the Wyoming History Museum, also in Cheyenne. This is a History Lover's Guide to Cheyenne. This is the state capitol in Cheyenne, Wyoming. This is the historic governor's mansion. On my drive from Cheyenne to Casper, I stopped at the Fort Laramie National Historic Site. Of special interest to me is this monument to the Transcontinental Telegraph. Again, along the way is a place where the wagons that were following the Oregon Trail dug into the soft stone, and now they have a historic site there. And this is a picture of those ruts. Also along the way is Register Cliff. This is a cliff where people who were traveling along the Oregon Trail would carve their names into the cliffs. Now, most of the names that I saw are from more recent times, but here's one that was actually dated from that time period. This is another visitor center that I stopped along the way, and they have this steam locomotive outside. In Casper, they have the National Historic Trails Interpretive Center. The Oregon Trail, the Mormon Trail, and the California Trail all follow the same path through this section of Wyoming. Here is the information they have about the Oregon Trail. They also have trails. They also have the same information for the California and Mormon trails as well. In addition, they have information about the Pony Express. Also in Casper, I visited the Fort Casper Museum. This is a picture of the fort. Now, most of these buildings are actually reproductions. This is a book that I bought inside of the Fort Casper Museum. It is about Casper. It is by Con Trumwell and Kim Nicolason. While I was in Cody, I'd actually planned on going through the east gate of the Yellowstone, and this is the drive. This is a picture along the drive from Cody to the gate. Along that road is the Buffalo Bill Dam, which at the time it was built was the tallest concrete dam. This is a picture at the dam showing the landscape. This is a map of Wyoming that shows the various mountain ranges. This is another picture along that drive. In Cody, Wyoming is the Buffalo Bill Center of the West. Admission here is good for 2 days, and it's a good idea to actually plan 2 days to go through this. This is a very large museum. This is a map they've got inside that shows this corner of Wyoming. This picture is actually from a couple stories up. Inside the Buffalo Bill Museum is the Draper National History Museum, and it has 4 different levels showing the animals and plants at different levels of altitude, and you actually walk down as you go from the top to the bottom, or from up as you go from the bottom to the top. Also inside this museum is a collection of art. A portion of the museum is dedicated to Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, and they have a model of his grounds. And this is one picture of that model showing the grandstand. This is a picture in the Bighorn Mountains. This is at an elevation of 9,000 feet. This is a picture as I was coming down the Bighorn Mountains on the east side of the mountains. Next are a series of pictures from Devil's Tower National Monument. The visitor center itself was at an elevation of 4,250 feet. This is a model of Devil's Tower outside the visitor center. This is a map of the Tower Trail, which is 1.3 miles or 2 kilometers. And when you go to Devil's Tower, I highly recommend walking this trail. This is a picture of Devil's Tower from the trail. This picture is at a rest stop inside of Wyoming, and it was the last picture that I got from Wyoming. My next pictures are from Mount Rushmore National Memorial. Here's a picture of Mount Rushmore. There's actually a stage just below it, and there was a high school graduation going on while I was there. And of course, a selfie with me just hanging out with the presidents. This picture is at a rest stop in South Dakota. On May 18th, I made a one-night stop to my house. And these are the flowers that were blooming when I got home. The school system in Farmville was one of the cases that made up the Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court. The high school there has been turned into the Robert Russa Moton Museum. Unfortunately, the museum was closed while I was there. However, I did get a picture of this timeline that's painted on one of the buildings at the museum. A short distance away is Appomattox Courthouse National Historical Park. This is the North Carolina Monument at Appomattox. This is a picture of the side of the monument. At top is the state motto, Esse quam videri, which translated to English means to be rather than to seem. And then below is a common saying in North Carolina about the American Civil War. First at Bethel, farthest to the front at Gettysburg and Chickamauga, last at Appomattox. North Carolina provided 1/6 of the soldiers that served during the Civil War, and 1/4 of the deaths came from North Carolina. This is a picture of the house where the surrender between Lee and Grant was signed. These are the books that I bought at Appomattox Courthouse: Remembering North Carolina's Confederates by Michael C. Hardy, and Tar Heels 5 Points in the Record of North Carolina, Introduction and New Material by Patrick A. Schroeder. After nearly 2 weeks of rest, I traveled to visit my brother. Along the way, I stopped for lunch with another booktuber, and after lunch, we went to the half-price bookstore and, of course, bought books. The first 3 books I bought are Maps and Map Makers by R.V. Tooley, It Looked Good on Paper, edited by Bill Fawcett, and the TTL data book for design engineers. This is by Texas Instruments, and TTL is Logic chips. These are 2 hardcovers in the Piers Anthony Incarnations of Immortality, and then I picked up 5 books in the Myth series by Robert Asprin. On my way back from visiting my brother, I visited another booktuber, and we stopped at a antique store, and they've got this model circus. Here I bought Ohio's Buckeye Trail by Norman Fox. Next are a series of pictures from Gettysburg National Military Park. This picture is a map of the auto tour that you can go on. Unfortunately, I didn't give myself enough time to see everything, and really you need to plan a full day to see everything. This is a map showing the terrain of Gettysburg and the surrounding area. This is a picture of the North Carolina Monument. This is a picture of the statue they have at the North Carolina Monument. This was a book that I bought at the Gettysburg Gift Center. This is Gettysburg by Dolly Nasby. Then about a week later, I took a trip to Atlanta. This is a picture inside the Georgia Aquarium. Another picture inside the Georgia Aquarium. And then this is a picture on top of Stone Mountain looking toward Atlanta. And then this is a picture of the carving at Stone Mountain. And then this is a book, Stone Mountain Park Official Commemorative Guide, that I bought in one of the gift stores. On my trip, I got to meet 11 booktubers in person. I had a fantastic time with each and every one of them, and I appreciate the fact that they took time out of their schedule to meet me, some of whom did so on short notice. I'm going to list them off in alphabetical order by their first name. First is Amy from A-Star Reads, Bethann Bruninga Sokolar, David Wiley, Arian and Prometheus from Book Zealots, Ian from B&B Books, Carrie from Very Literary Carrie, Michael K. Vaughn. Michael passed along a gift from the lady of stately Vaughn Manor. They gave me 3 packets of California poppy seeds. If you're new to my channel, last year I did flower updates along with my monthly reading updates. Really appreciate this gift. Steve from Steve Talks Books, Summer from Sterling Reads, and Tom from Tom LA Books. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.